What's going on, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about the history of the Remington Model 600 and the history of the 350 Rem Mag. So what I have here is the Remington Model 600 in my 350 Rem Mag. So this gun was designed from 1965 to 1967. That's what Remington Arms claims, but they said they were designed to 1968. So this gun is really popular amongst the collectors, and what really gives it its noticeability is the vent rib on it. It's a nylon vent rib. It's got a nice big shark fin sight. It's got a nice rear sight. It's got the adjustment, windage, and elevation. And I know a lot of people, when these came out, they wanted it so that you could use a low power scope, which I have here is a 1.5 to 5, and they wanted it so you could use your open sights as well. So Weaver came up with the pivot rings. Just twist the scope off the side like this, and you can use your open sights. And then locks back in. And no, it does not change the point of impact. These bases are really strong and they're really thick, so they're not going to shift or anything. And that's what I like about the pivot rings. It allows me, if I'm in thick brush, I can flip the scope off and I can still use my open sights as well. So Remington 600 had a recall on them back in, I want to say it was 1966, where if your safety was on and you squeeze the trigger, and if you snap the safety off, it would set the gun off. So Remington had a recall on them, and they had to put all new triggers in them. And what they did was they put a V on the left side of the trigger. So if you have a Remington Model 600 and you do not have that V on the trigger, unless you've replaced the trigger with like a Timney or a Jewel or whatever, your gun has not been recalled and you have not had the safety done on it. And it's something you definitely want to have done, because you don't want to be walking through the woods, squeezing the trigger and then boop, take the safety off, bang, gun goes off. Horrible. But you shouldn't be walking around through the woods with your finger on the trigger anyway. So this gun has had it done, and right now it's kind of hard with Remington Arms not being around, and what they are making, they're not making any of these anymore. So they made the 600, which is this one. Then this has got an 18.5-inch barrel. Then they went with the 660, which they didn't put the vent rib on. They just had a 20-inch barrel instead of a 20 or 18.5. Then they came out with a 600 Mohawk, which I believe still had a 20-inch barrel in it. It still had the same features and of the 660. They just called it the Mohawk instead. They also have the dogleg bolt on them. So a lot of people like this gun. This gun was designed primarily for a guide gun, a brush gun. They wanted lightweight. Pilots in Alaska wanted a lightweight gun to carry on a float plane or a bush plane, and they were concerned about weight. And so a lot of people that find these or that want to collect them, the rarest one of them all is a 223. There's only 227 of them ever made, and they documented that just one 223 came out of the custom shop, which, that's what they said, but who knows really. But to this day, the 223 is the rarest of the Model 600s. They made 223, 222, 223. They made a 6.5 Rem Mag, which is a 350 Rem Mag, just neck down to 6.5, which was a nice shooting cartridge. They had the 35 Remington. They had the 308, 243, and I believe that was it for that. 6mm they had as well. But to this day, the 223 is the rarest. So, the rifle that I have here is, like I said, is a 350 Rem Mag. And when a lot of collectors are looking for these, but a lot of guys that do own these, a lot of them don't have the 350 Rem Mag because they didn't care for the muzzle energy and the blast from it and the recoil. I, on the other hand, don't care. So, but that's your Remington Model 600. So the 350 Rem Mag, which I have actually here, some old Peters boxes, and then the old Remington Clean More high-speed boxes. And these are still full of ammo, by the way. And then I have the old high velocity Remington 350 Rem Mag. And this was when they made them in the styrofoam containers. Now it's all plastic so that they can recycle them, which is fine. The 350 Rem Mag, like I said, was made in 1965. They took a 7mm Magnum and they shortened the cartridge down, but they opened up the case to hold a 35 caliber bullet. This is a 200 grain pointed soft point, and this hits with 3,500 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, I believe. But when I load them, I load 180 grain hot core SP soft point, and I load this up. And this one, they're saying, with the charge that I have, which is not maxed out, has 4,019 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. Do I really think that's possible? No. I believe they're saying that's the max load with 180 grain soft core or soft point SP. But this cartridge really didn't take off. They made the 350 mag for the Model 600. They made it in the 660. Don't believe they made it in the 600 Mohawk, but a lot of guys, like I said before, didn't like the muzzle blast from it. It was a lot of recoil, but in low light, I know, like I've looked through the scope and I've shot it, you get a big flame that comes out of the gun. And it just really never took off. They brought the cartridge back in 2002 in the Model 673 guide gun, which had a 22-inch barrel on it. Still had the vent rib, but they had, the 673 was supposed to be derived like 600, Model 7 action, and third generation. That's what the 673 stood for. And it had an X-Mark Pro trigger on it. They were supposed to be adjustable, but I had one for a short time, and a friend of mine bought it. I didn't care for it. I wanted the 600 because it was a lighter gun. So they had the 350 Rem Mag chambered in 700, and I've seen Ruger 77s in the 350 Rem Mag, but the 350 Rem Mag cartridge was discontinued in the 70s because poor performance and poor sales. No one wanted that. They were supposed to be like the first short Magnum cartridge, and they were supposed to compete with the 35 Whalen, which they do, and the 358 Norma Magnum, which is a 8mm Magnum neck down, or shortened but opened up to a 35 caliber. And those were in Husqvarna rifles, made over in Europe. But the 350 Rem Mag, yeah, it was like one of those dying cartridges, and it's, to hand loaders, you can really tame them down, which is what I do. They did make this in the Remington XP100 target pistol, and that's a very rare gun to find if you can find one. And if you can find a 350 Rem Mag and you're not hunting or shooting with it, I would jump on it and collect it. So if you are a collector of those old guns. So yeah, I just wanted to go over the history of the 600 with you. This one of my babies, and then the 350 Rem Mag. And if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And yeah, I'll try to answer them right away. I've got some editing still going on for my hunting videos from 2024 because I used a GoPro this year for that. I'm still dealing with the editing software, and I will put those videos up as soon as I'm done. But I've just been so busy with stuff around my house and work. But I plan on doing a video with this. We're going to take it out to the range, and we're going to show how accurately they are loaded without using a scale. I use a powder dipper, a Lee powder dipper, and see how tight of a group we can shoot at 100. And then we're going to shoot some stuff like cans of soup, like it's old soup, and some other stuff, fruits and veggies, and have some fun with it. So I want to thank you guys all for coming along for the history of this rifle and this cartridge, and we'll see you guys on the next video.